Hey guys, just a quick one. Um, I was going through some interviews done by Dr. Phil. He wrote a book recently called "The Issues We All Face," and the more I listened to him, I thought it's actually happening globally. Well, he's straight on point, like in terms of what is going on in the states, pretty much in the Western world. I live in Japan, though it's not as pronounced here as it is in the Western world. But the thing is, like, even though they cannot observe, like their proposals or their suggestions to solutions is not really adequate. I felt. One of the reasons why is, I think I've mentioned in my previous presentations that there's a huge change in the mental environment. Most people are just looking for physical evidence. You're not going to find any physical evidence for something that is mental or something that is taking place in what you can see. So, and it's very difficult or it's very hard to fight that which you can see. Uh, the thing is, like, there is a guy called Marshall. He goes in depth of when he talks about intervention that is happening in the world, and basically he says our planet is being visited, is being colonized by a species that is hiding itself. It's not here to reveal itself. Because they are the minority and we are the majority in the planet, and they have taken keen interest in our psychology and the way we think. So basically, they're like, okay, they value the planet. We don't really value it based on how we have been destroying it. And for them, it's like uh, they were looking for excuses to take advantage and just preserve it for themselves. But they need labor. They need human species to work for them. So why kill humans where you can have them do all the work for you? You see, they will have to adapt to the environment, to the atmosphere, and all that, which is a lot of work. So because of that, they're not really here to conquer uh, whatever. And most people think in terms of brute ways to deal with the problem, or they think war is about using bombs and conquering with all that, whatever. But they never think about the smart population. An intelligent population is not going to invade a country with weapons. They would just use mind techniques. So this is what people are not really guarded against. So yeah, you see a lot of people in the media and institutions who are implanted there. They are basically pushing values and ideas that are destructive to the human soul. And because of that, since people have not really developed the capacity to process or to handle as such kind of persuasions, so they become victims to it. You can't really solve problems with the same kind of thinking that you're used to deal with. If it's a human population and you're dealing with the human thinking, then it's easy, because we understand who we are. But when you're dealing with an enemy you can't see, an enemy you can't handle, you have to appeal to something much deeper within yourself to be able to position yourself in such a way that you're not taken advantage of. So I remember, you know, there was this old African man before he died. He said, and he kept saying several times that the regret he had was, or the regrets the African elites had was they never prepared the populations for the coming colonialism. So some things are inevitable because it's nature. Nature basically is governed by the laws of survival. If we destroy the planet, we're basically gonna have to look for somewhere else to go and live, or those who will survive, basically. So and the way that keeps a population stable is by preserving its natural environment, because the survival or life, whatever we call life, is tied to the healthiness of the environment. So one of the things, yeah. So I would like to say is that when it comes to the planet, there are things which I've come across which actually made a lot of sense. Say when the world was created, or when the planet was created, there were rules that were set to govern the natural environment, like weather, um, things to do with harvest and all that, all these seasons, reproductive cycles, and all that. So they were not designed for humans. It's just anything that survives on the planet. And humans like to think like the other way around, like the planet exists because of them. No, the planet was here way long before humans ever came here. So you don't expect things to change to start working for you. So one of the things that you're required to understand or to know is about the laws that exist. They are not written by man. So, and violation of these laws brings retribution. So, if you destroy the environment, you can avoid facing catastrophes that are going to strike. So, there's a lot of people who are immigrating, mostly because of desertification, others because of the nature can no longer sustain a stable population, and there is overpopulation and all these kind of things. So people, this is basically generated out of human ignorance, and the reason why we are facing these kind of problems is because we have lost control of ourselves as a human race, and that's as a reason of we are not we have abandoned what makes us human, what gives us strength, in quest for material comfort. And in terms of our success, we measure based on what we have accumulated. We are not measuring in terms of how advanced as a human being we have become. I mean, the interior part of it. So this part is neglected. If you go back to lectures of guys like Manly P. Hall, he talks about this. He's like, the biggest mistake Western civilization ever did was to go pure materialism. They were not against technology or development, but they said, well, you develop technology and material, you also have to insist more on the human evolution, human development side of it. This is why they promoted social sciences and this. But somebody came and said, no, all that is superstition. Religion has no place in the modern world. And yeah, some people took it literally and they just decided to abandon that. And yeah, there's always like, whenever there is a huge change, like now it has been happening, people tend to lose faith in their own institutions and in each other. This happened in Africa before it was colonized. People try to push this idea that it was really united and all that. No, people had completely lost faith in their leaders to handle the crisis or changes that was the planet was going through. So and there was these intertribal warfare that was actually accelerated by the intervening forces because they used to set different groups against each other. And if people are spiritually aware or they were intelligent enough, they would be like, hey, instead of fighting with your neighbor, why don't you actually establish good relationship with your neighbor? It enhances your ability to survive. But now you see what is happening now is like major economies are actually competing with each other, and they are actually going to the extent of creating weapons that can annihilate each other in such a way. So you see, there is no strength, there is only division. And this is weakening people. And also when it comes to institutions, like we talk about religion in terms of it deals with what is a mystery, things that we can't see, we can't know by just through our senses. So we are talking about a different side of our existence. So we do accept that we are manifest life, and there is a mystery life. So manifest life is about practicality. And this is why I think people confuse religion with science. Science only addresses to the manifest life. I mean, how do we adapt best to our environment? I mean, how can we use everything for our own benefits and survival and stuff like that? It has nothing to do with the soul. It has nothing to do with the meaning of life. So these are very different disciplines. But I think the reason why there is such debates and they are promoted on purpose is how to is it ends up actually undermining both, because when you try to have these debates, like I watched Saguru, he's a mystic, having a debate with these nuclear scientists, was a theoretical scientist or whatever, I don't know, and they are completely talking about different things. And I was wondering, why do they even have these kind of debates? Each could specialize on their side. There is one who is insisting on inner engineering of a human being to make better human being, and there is another one who is insisting on how we can advance as a civilization and stuff like that. So these two things have nothing in common, but they're just addressing two things of the same. It's like we say we exist as animals, and we also exist as spirits. So the animal or the lower nature is governed by the instincts, is governed by um, the law of nature, basically. Instincts to survive, instincts to reproduce, these kind of things governs our own nature. And there's always competition with that. But there's also the human spirit that says this is not where we belong, our source. And where we come from is not from the material. We are spirits, and the body is just pretty much of a vessel or a vehicle. And the time we're here, we're supposed to figure out on our meaning of existence and why we came here and all that. So, and this is where we talk about the journey. So people don't really understand this. I mean, you can't really blame if you grew up as a child and you have been conditioned to think in a certain way, or to believe things in a certain way. So yeah, what I would just like to say is laws are not dependent on what you believe in or what you have been taught. These are things that pre-exist your existence here in on the whatever. So it's smart enough to just understand the laws and don't even spend your time arguing with them. Just live the way things are. Yeah. So in regard to our character, our foundation, if our foundation is built on lies and there is a change, there's always these insecurities. And I understand why people feel insecure, because they identify with certain beliefs or certain cultures, like skin colors and all that. And when there is a change, all these things are being challenged, and most people feel very insecure and very unsafe. So and this is why you find each group is trying to compete with the other, like, oh, we are the superior, we are this and that. But it just means that when what you have aligned yourself with, what you think defines you, has been challenged, and you feel insecure and you feel all these anxieties, it's just telling you to look deeper within yourself. Every crisis has a good side of it. So instead of complaining about the change, instead of looking at the hard things, just look at what it can drive you to. There was a guy who said, our creator calls us when we are down, when we have been disappointed by the world, because so long you're enjoying the world, you have no interest in much spiritual things. You have no interest in whatever. And it's until that time when you face death, when you have lost all your wealth and everything else, then you start thinking about these things. And this is how people are reborn. And this was actually the story of Job. After he lost everything and he reaches a point where he's by, like, his wife is telling, just curse God and die and end it all. And the fact is, like, well, he does confront the shadow of death, and he's reborn into a sage. Now he has actually realized that his beliefs in the beginning were all based on ignorance. But I agree, I've gone to church, and people always used to use Job's story to justify suffering. And they are like, okay, you have to be tempted because God allows that. And no, it has nothing to do with justification of suffering. It's just saying, like, suffering can be a way you find your path into righteousness. And this is how calling actually happens. There was stories I used to hear, like in Old Africa, when people would become prophets or sangomas, whatever you call them. They suffered from a peculiar disease that would not be cured, and they had to cure themselves because it was a calling. And this is like what a guy called Mutwa said, like, he got sick, he got paralyzed and all that. And no matter what medicine they tried, they couldn't work on him. But he was able to heal himself, and he was able to heal other people. So, and then, of course, he met people who understand that. So, and then he developed all these psychic abilities and all that. So, I would say sickness is not really understood. And I think instead of feeling such calamities and stuff, it's a way to look at understand the cause of them. So yeah, I know a lot of people who are struggling. They're paying a lot of money to hospitals and all that because they're afraid of death. They want to prolong life. They don't even understand why they want to prolong it. Just that they're living just because they're afraid of death. It's like the same way when you talk about like people traveling nowadays. Yeah, I've had people moving places complaining about the inconveniences and hardships. So when I traveled overseas, like my desire was actually driven by the economic hardships. I looked into the country. There was not really much to hope for because there wasn't much development going on. So you would study. I saw guys studying, come home, and they had all their degrees and everything else, but they had no job. So I had to think about how can I actually escape that. So it wasn't the fact that I was depressed, I wasn't happy, and stuff like that. That's why I came to a place like Japan. No, it had nothing to do with that. It was just purely driven by economic reasons. So I would refer myself as an economic refugee. And whatever I would make, I was thinking about, hey, just invest back at home and build a nice home. And yeah, it was somewhere I was always looking back to, going back to. But recently, a lot of people were traveling this because they're unhappy. They have grown up in the depressive environment and stuff, and they think maybe if they change the environment everything is going to change, and then they go to a different country, there's the excitement, and then they start facing other difficulties, like Black Americans who live in America, because they have grown up there with a lot of challenges, and they go to Africa, and then they discover it's another jungle you have to discover, where people are competing for very finite resources and stuff like that. So such place, people don't really like it. People are driven by uh, their uh, their desire to live. They don't want to die, they don't want to perish, and they don't want to be poor. So if they see you have some money, of course, yeah, they're going to smile at you and all that. They're not going to uh, come to you because they like you, because these are just fantasies. Honestly, people will basically get along with you because they know you, and when you're a stranger in a foreign country, people will hesitate to open up to you. So it will take a long time before you can actually build trust and be able to adapt there. But until then, you're not really secure. You live in an environment which you're more comfortable with, and you're going to an environment which is much difficult, much different. So there is that part. And then again, if you have your own issues, you can learn whatever you want to go, but you can't really learn away from yourself. Those issues are still with you. So the best thing I would advise, if you're in a stable environment, and to me, stable environment is an environment where there is no war. You have a job. You have something that keeps you occupied. At least you're able to live a decent life. Just stay where you are, confront your issues, because yeah, the what affects us it's what is inside of us. For the most case, the environment, yeah, sometimes it can be cruel, and we have to move. Like if you're in an area that is plagued by war, diseases, and drought and stuff like that, that times you can be like, yeah, there's a better place, there's better green pastures or whatever I can move to. But thinking that you're going to go to a place that is less developed and you're going to have a happy life, I don't think so. So I think much of it is mental and psychological. Um, so you will have to confront yourself. There's such thing like, yeah, moving to a new environment can actually happen. I mean, it can help you. But the thing is, like, first of all, you have to realize that the issues that you have, the internal issues that you have, and you have to want to confront them. uh, so you want to be in a quiet environment with less distraction, because sometimes when you're with people who are familiar with you, they will not be actually encouraging you to change. Sometimes they will start calling you kinds of names like you're weirdo, you're all these, or you're proud and crap like that. You see, they start isolating you, and it will give you a lot of stress and stuff. So sometimes when you're in a new environment to deal with that, it helps. Also, there is one thing we tend to underestimate is the impact the environment has on us, especially mental environment. When I moved to Asia, like I couldn't understand the languages. I mean, even sometimes when I'm traveling, like to places like China, because I don't speak Chinese or even Korean, I would understand a bit of it, but I can zone out. So it's kind of meditative. thing for me, because it's just like you be in the world and you have all these noises, you don't understand anything. So that's kind of like very common for me. I don't understand people. I don't know what they're thinking about, and I don't care. So yeah. So if you're in a new environment, that kind of thing happens. But also, it's you're more likely to feel isolated and lonely, and this is a good chance to develop a relationship within yourself. I struggled with loneliness, and I had to learn to make good use of it. And this is when I started developing a relationship with myself, and I started embracing certain aspects of myself. Like, I was always curious. I used to ask questions of these deep things. But you see, when you're back at home where you grew up, you for instance, if you're in a religious society, you ask, okay, why were we created, or why did God create the universe, for instance? They have answers for everything, and the answers that they have is like, don't ask questions. So just get along with whatever you have been given to. But we have all um, these deep questions within ourselves. So asking people, it doesn't really help. So it's something that you have to, and when you have these kind of uh, uh, inquiries within yourself, this is how you start seeking, and this is how you learn. So, and this is how the journey begins. So you learn to detach from things, and one of the things that you come to realize is the things you are arguing with, you found them here. Like, most of these traditions have existed for thousands of years, and you're gonna die and leave them here. So the question is, like, did you come all the way just to argue with things, to argue with people, to argue with texts that were written by whatever? No, it's more about that which is inside of you, which is guides you in your journey, and this is what will liberate you. So it's about finding that which is inside of you, basically, and this is how you establish yourself, relationship within yourself, and this is how you find your creator, because whatever creates you is inside of you. So if you, like I've said, if you identify with your body, this is just the accumulation of food that I've been eating, and when I die, I mean, the body dies, it would just go back to nature, the same food, to the same cycle, whatever. So I would say this is in terms of people who understand their spirit. So when you think of a spirit, what is spirit? It's not something you can comprehend with a biological mind. It's the lowest. Nature is the lowest of all creation, basically. So so in terms of what like Dr. Phil and other guys are complaining about, or they're talking about, I think it's time to embrace our true strength, our core strength, which are within us. And if enough people are awakened, then we can be able to create a balance between the intervening forces. I don't think intervention is just going to end. I think we live in a tiny world surrounded by maybe millions of billions of planets, which are uh, overpopulated, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe some are very highly advanced in technology, and we're just an emerging society. So it's not by accident that colonialism took place or is taking place. It's not by accident that intervention is taking place or whatever. There is always something driving forces, people together. Just like in the ancient world, people were united. I believe they were one society, but some forces separated them. So it wasn't their will or their wish that it happened. It just happened. And now there are these forces which are driving groups together. And because we are all mixing, so there is that loss of identity, which leaves a lot of people insecure and depressed and worried. Um, but and there's also explosion of technology. So like AI, but technology should not really overtake you. But if you're trying to think or compete with AI, you're just definitely going to lose. So it's a time for us to find what it really means to be human. Actually, the biggest or the best human gifts were born out of crisis. They were not born during the peaceful times or times of comfort. So I think things will get really hard, and some people will perish, but those who will survive and those people who are going to awaken, they will be able to ride onto the next generation, and they will write a whole different story. So I like to share my thoughts and feelings about these kind of things. I know people are afraid because they feel insecure whenever there is something that is new, because they're over identified with what they see and what they think. But the truth is, your identity is 99% programmed by outside forces, and you have to fight to become authentic. You have to go against that, and that's what is giving you insecurities. So it's not like don't look at yourself as good or bad. Uh, Pretty much the best word to use is we are innocent. We don't have knowledge of what's going on within and outside of us. And because of our innocence, we are suffering. So innocence doesn't mean that you're a good person or you're a bad person. You're just innocent. You're just in the middle. So, and this kind of existence is what it's called death, basically, because you're not really progressing forward and you're not regressing backwards. You're just tied, and but the forces are changing. The environment is actually overtaking your inner development, the outside environment that is, and this is likely to create a lot of conflict and discomfort. Uh, you have evil in the world, and you have not to contend with evil from outside of the world. So yeah, human values, everything is being turned upside down. And this is when you talk about, like, integrity. If you're character of integrity, then you won't be affected by any of these things. But if you don't have any integrity, yeah, today you are this, tomorrow you are that, and you see yourself, you become a useful idiot to destroy the same institutions that brought you up. Like people who grow up like Christians or Muslims or whatever, then they spend the rest of their adult life fighting these institutions, but they don't actually, because they are disgruntled. They're like, it's like attacking a kindergarten because you have to go through a kindergarten. No, it's just that these institutions were there to give you some kind of foundation, and instead of attacking them, that they didn't prepare you enough, that foundation is enough now for you to start inquiring with an open and clear mind. It's not about criticizing. It's not about being a skeptic. It's about thinking critically. Critical thinking. It's about, yeah, why, um, like, why am I here? Why was I created? If I am special, what about these kind of things? So you challenge your beliefs, challenge your thinking, and if you want to find out, there's always ways to find out. You have to labor for it. But if you're not ready, then you have to find someone you can trust and learn from them because it's yeah, the guy who discovered certain things, I would say they didn't really find it easy going through that. Discoveries take a long time, whether it's a spiritual discoveries or scientific discoveries. These people have to labor. They have to struggle for many generations to come up with something. So embrace what is there. Just use everything for your advantage, for your growth, not against yourself. And most important, remember that which you carry within you is the greatest gift the creator of all life has given to you. So embrace it and pray for strength. Don't complain about the storms. Just ask for strength to be able to ride through the storms, and you will survive. So you guys have a good time, and sayonara.